afternoon, and we're keep going with the IoT sessions. The next session is an exciting one as well. So far, we've covered connectivity, the overall industry insights, best practices for connectivity, and how can we make money and business models with connected services and products utilizing IoT. So, and next we're going to look about security and how can we secure the ecosystem. And for that, we have another panel coming your way, which I'm going to start introducing our speakers. I will bring in Jimmy Jones, Head of Security from Zariot. Jimmy, welcome.
Hi, Nassia. Nice to meet you.
And if you can give us just half a second of introduction of yourself for the folks that don't know you yet.
Sure. So my name is Jimmy Jones. I work for Zariot. Zariot are an MVNO, but they're a connectivity partner for IoT who look strategically at security as being a key to trust in IoT, and I think that's the key to delivering successful IoT. So I work as the head of security there, and hopefully oversee that mission statement.
Fantastic. Thank you and welcome, Jimmy. Joe Weiss, the worldwide leader of IoT and Edge Intelligence at Cisco Meraki. Welcome, Joe.
Hello there. Thanks for having me, Nassia. I'm Joe Weiss. I look after our portfolio here, and at Cisco, we're really excited to share with you all of the ways that we're helping secure the edge and secure IoT technology to take your projects from science projects to scale.
Fantastic, Joe. And Yogesh Lulla, who's the Vice President of Sales for Global Mobility, IoT, and Cloud Connectivity, and Voice for PCCW. Quite a mouthful there, Yogesh, if you can introduce yourself for our audience.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Nassia. My name is Yogesh. I'm based in Dubai. I work in PCCW Global, heading a few continents with IoT and Console Connect, which is a new cloud product. So in terms of IP infrastructure, we rank in the top 10 in the world, and we formed an ecosystem called Console Connect, which automates the entire infrastructure, thereby facilitating further security. Nice to meet you all.
Great to have you with us, Yogesh. And last but not least, Professor Dror, the CEO and founder of FirstPoint. Hello, Dror.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be the last one to introduce. My name is Dror. I'm the technical guy, I think, from the team here, part of the 3GPP and GSMA organization, professor for electrical engineering. We established FirstPoint six years ago that we are providing security for all kind of IoT devices that communicating with cellular technology for all aspects dealing with data, denial of service and interrogation, and providing a full management platform that it's easy to operate and secure all devices.
Great. Welcome, gentlemen. And this is quite a topic we have ahead of us that we're going to try to cover in the next half an hour. And I think I want to get straight into it. And Jimmy, you know, I like to put you on the spot in this thing. So securing IoT has been a hot topic, right? But can we really secure IoT?
I think we have to secure IoT because the only way IoT can realize its potential is to be trusted. And the only way it can be trusted is if it's secure. So I think there's no option. IoT has to be secured moving forward. I don't think there's any option in that. Can it be secured? I think yes. I think at the moment we're starting to move in that direction. We're starting to get a lot better at it. We're starting to consider secure by design in more seriously, and I'm starting to see that in projects now. And I think it's a very good time to start, because I think we're at the point where we're transitioning from very simple solutions, meters reading humidity or your electricity usage, to something that's more complex. So I think once you start to have to collect data and analyze data, process and analyze data in large data lakes, and then make a decision, pushing decisions out into the physical world, I think that's really key. And I think that's where we are now. I've used this analogy before, but I think at the moment we've been looking after IoT as if it was a baby. It's been difficult to look after, but it's not really done much. And I think where we are now is the point where it's becoming a toddler and it's going to start running around the room, putting its fingers in the electricity socket. So I think we have to secure IoT.
Great, thank you, Jimmy, and I do love that analysis. So IoT is a toddler, folks, and Joe, you are working endlessly, tirelessly, rather, at Cisco to secure the end devices. So, can we secure them? What have you seen from your end?
Yeah, typically we like to start with security by design, right?
Yeah.
So all of our sensors, all of our smart cameras, all of the technology we produce that's cloud managed, they all have trust anchors in them. That's a piece of hardware that lives on every single device that when it connects to the cloud, it authenticates. And then all of the firmware delivered centrally is all digitally signed. I mean, it's the way that things need to be done in the future, because the reality is if your IT teams can't trust the devices that you're going to put in your infrastructure, your projects will never scale. You'll get to a point where that was really interesting. You really created a lot of value, but the risk to scale because of the cybersecurity elements stop a project in its tracks. And so for us at Cisco, we look not just at the device level, but we also are one of the largest security vendors in the world, fourth largest in the world, and there's only 3 nation states larger than us when you talk about our cybersecurity presence with Talos. And that's the thing, like when you know all of the risks out there and you design and build the solutions, the onus is on you as the manufacturer to design and architect solutions that can be secured out of the box, that can be simple and easy to deploy, and that can be scalable. Because I think all of us are here to talk not just about cybersecurity, but how we make these projects a reality, how they monetize, and really how we turn these things from a hobbyist project into a real value add for the organization. So I think it starts at the beginning and the foundation of like design and choice. And when you're selecting these technologies to put in your infrastructure, selecting them from a vendor and a partner that you know has a pedigree in cybersecurity, and you're not just buying the cheapest sensor that you can find, because there's a much bigger difference between value and cost. And I think that's important to pick up on.
Yeah, securing by design and from the get-go, it will be key, because as we've seen on the previous sessions, I don't know, for those who weren't tuned in earlier, we're talking about the best practices when it comes to IoT connectivity. There are quite a few deployments out there that are still utilizing legacy technology and legacy equipment, which will also affect when it comes to security, because a lot of those devices could potentially have outdated firmware, or they no longer fit within what I would call the standards of for securing, for security that are now important. At the same time, is like when we look at the entire ecosystem, end-to-end, from device to connectivity to the platforms to the analytics, each area needs to be secured, and each area then has to be brought together to provide the enterprises the end-to-end cohesiveness around security. So Yogesh, what has been your experience with your customers? Does security come up as a question when you're looking at IoT deployments?
Yes, I agree with Joe firstly on this last point, that the services in production not be the cheapest from a consumer's point of view. And from our perspective as an international operator, it does come up. And as an operator, we need to make sure we inherit the in-country laws of privacy of data and the security for IoT. And we need to understand that we're entering a world which is converging. And in this IoT framework, the IoT devices have taken over the human population and probably superseded. So when we deploy IoT devices or connectivity around the world, data privacy and security is one of the important aspects that we have to inherit, which is why the Console Connect platform, like I said, it's an automated platform which is software defined. And one IoT device on one end of the world can reach the other part of the globe on a secured network which skips the public internet completely. So this is where we believe we are ambitiously going towards security. And another aspect of security which I believe we could adapt is the DNA component model, whereby we secure the device, application, and the network individually, and thereafter monitor and test the entire system. So there are a few aspects that we do adapt, considering IoT is very much next to us. Because if you look at the human life now, right from the beginning, from the time he wakes up, the smart TV, the baby monitor, the sensors, there are high resolution cameras, everything around us would require connectivity. And in this paradigm shift, we believe that it's just imperative to pay attention to the security aspect of it.
Great, thank you, Yogesh. Dror, we see the proliferation of IoT devices, and with the scalability and the growth of all those disparate devices, surely that affects how we secure them. What are the key areas that we need to look at to ensure that we don't miss something that's very important?
Yeah. So IoT security, it's large area. We are talking about connected devices that can connect through different radio resources. And we are talking, I think, almost for 10 years, if bombings and number of IoT devices, and it's not happened yet. During the last Mobile World Congress, it looks like that's a 5G going to be the enabler of that. Hopefully that it will happen, but the first thing that we need to take care is about the radio, the connectivity that was mentioned in the previous sessions, and following that, the security rules for the different connectivity, it's very important. It's the main parameters that need to take in consideration. Second is the full supply chain. There are several vendors that playing main rules in order to make this big event happen. And it's starting from the modems. It continue with the switches, routers, the application layers, and much more. And in case that we don't know exactly how we can trust all of this chain, it will be very difficult to build a high secured group that everyone can trust and can operate. We know that different countries are declining and disagreeing to use this kind of vendors or other kind of vendors, whether it's correct or not correct, but in order to make the security happen and trusted, it's something that need to be considered. And the last part, after you are dealing with the connectivity and the full ecosystem, it's about how you are managing it. And we got already one question about the cost and the price. Unfortunately, today customers preferring to reduce the cost for them in few cents per device and give up the security. And this is big mistake. It's a huge mistake. It didn't happen yet. The big crisis, although we already know about things that happened in IoT technology, IoT devices, we are working with electricity company that's suffering from denial of service daily basis, and they already changing their policy and looking for security. But big infrastructure, critical infrastructure, need to be in the design level how we are protecting it. And this is the last argument that we need to pay for this security, not to pay much, but to pay and not asking for small reduce of the price in order to give up this critical feature. And this is a message for the audience and the people that will see us later on. The security, it's critical thing in our ecosystem.
Great, great. And Jimmy, has the needs for security changed on the back of what we've seen with coming out of COVID and the lockdowns and the need to create connected services for a lot of organizations? Dror mentioned about critical infrastructure, which obviously when we're talking about critical infrastructure, we cannot escape talking about security as well. But have you seen the needs in the past year or so for IoT security shifting or changed?
Yeah, we speak to a lot of customers who are risk averse, so they're looking for their connectivity to be the most secure on the market, which is obviously the area we try and fulfill. Looking at security, I'm more positive that people are moving towards it, and I think they do realise they need to invest. And I think there's two massive drivers for that. First of all, legislation. So the stick is there. By 2024, the Radio Equipment Directive will be enabled within the EU. And that will mean that all consumer devices have to be secured. We're already seeing the effect of that when we talk to certification companies. They're actually widening their lab base to be able to do the testing they're expecting. They're expecting a tidal wave of testing coming in 2024 because the UK's legislation will come in probably just before, and the US around the same time, maybe a tad later. So that's all happening. But it's interesting you mentioned the COVID area as well, because I think as well as the stick, as well as the fact that if you don't get tested, you can't put the CE mark on your device and you can't sell to the 500 million people in Europe or the 400 million people in the US, nearly a billion people altogether. With the COVID question, people have become more cybersecurity aware. They realise that their physical worlds and their online interactions are actually becoming blurred. So the security between the two are becoming blurred. So that is a serious worry for consumers, but that actually works well, particularly for cellular IoT, in the fact that I think it will drive buying decisions. I think selling a IoT device with poor cybersecurity in the future will be like selling a car without seatbelts. It will just be unacceptable. So with the fact that we have legislation coming, which is the stick, but I think there's also a carrot there, and I think people will pay for that. And I think when the company starts to see that, they start to move because of legislation, but then see a pickup in maybe consumer purchasing behavior as well. I think that's really key. The other thing is it's not just consumer products. Most of IoT is industrial IoT or in meters and things like that, medical. Those same legislation, the same bodies that do the standards testing for those standards are those certification bodies. They're going to be doing the same as the consumer. So their workload is not only going to be massive on the consumer side, it's also going to affect medical, automotive, and all these other areas of verticals as well. So I think there's a lot going on there, and I think you need to be thinking as an enterprise that you need to be thinking about security now, because otherwise you're just not going to be able to go to market, which is huge.
Great, thanks, Jimmy and Joe. How have you seen? Is the security or what we're trying to do and need to do when it comes to securing IoT different? And I know it's a bit of a loaded question here. Different between critical applications and infrastructure to the ones that they're not critical.
I think the challenging part for Cisco is all of our customers, from our small business customers all the way up to our largest enterprises that we work with everywhere, their needs are critical and their brand reputation matters. If you're a small business and you get breached because your thermostat didn't have a firmware update, if you're an enterprise customer and you've lost the trust of your customers because someone in your business put a fish tank thermometer on fish tank, and now you had a backdoor into your network that your IT team didn't even know about. Like, these things are real world scenarios that happen every day to our customers. And so when we talk about the cybersecurity of the devices we build, like, the reality is we will never be the lowest cost, we will never be the cheapest product, but nobody ever got fired for buying Cisco either. Because when you build the solutions that allow you to segment, carve out, and siphon off these devices and then posture them and then test them, you can really deliver these at scale for any size customer. So I think that's like the biggest thing that we start to see across the board with these IoT devices is the ones we design in are all built for cybersecurity today. But the network infrastructure that we build that takes sensors onto our access points and switches, our routers, and all of our cybersecurity products, they're all built so that even if you do have legacy devices in your infrastructure that can't have firmware updated, or you have thousands of devices and there's no way a human is going to go to site to plug a flash drive into all of these. You can still secure and segment them off on your network and put them in an area where they can still provide useful information, but also can't access any other resource.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's interesting because a question has come in from the audience that is asking, like, which one is more critical, which part of the ecosystem is more critical when it comes to IoT security. And I think it fits in quite well right here. So, Yogesh, do you see at Console Connect security as being fragmented, for each area of the ecosystem? And if so, which is the more relevant, I think the most important from your perspective? Or do you see it as a more holistic approach to securing IoT?
Yeah, I think there are various components in this particular answer. Firstly, some of the edge devices are actually installed remotely, and this remote location does not have constant network. These these edge devices are probably more susceptible towards the hacks or the malwares, because when they lose connection, that's where the installation happens. So, like I said previously, I think we need to secure the network, yes, but it's a full DNA component whereby the device, network, and the application needs to be secured individually, and then you run a test over the entire network to make sure there are no bridges over there which can probably be susceptible towards these hackers. Let's not forget there are more than 100 million attempts of hacks on a daily basis. So just by protecting one component, it will not be sufficient, especially when we're entering a world of 50 billion IoT devices.
Indeed, indeed. You secure one area, and then if you don't look, there will be a hole and in another. So, Dror, if we were to plug something, is there such a thing? Can we even say, this area of IoT is actually, we don't have to worry so much about securing it? Can we actually segregate it in that way, or like we have to look at the whole ecosystem as a whole and secure it?
I cannot argue with what we just heard. It's
Yeah.
correct. We need to keep our eyes on the entire system. But as in each big organization, we have different responsibilities and different vectors. We need to look for the most weak point that the intruders will arrive there. Although we need everything will be protected, we need to analyze what is our most sensitive place and looks for that. And as we just discussed about critical infrastructure, and we have plenty of critical, what is highest critical and less critical, I think that electricity, water, and gas, it's something that every place need to keep eyes on. Banking, it's another aspect that you need to be sure that you are securing it. And the best way to do it is to keep your eyes on the system itself, to have some kind of management system, a place that you can go over the different connectivity types, the different payloads that goes in and out, what's happened during the last time, operating some logic. Today we have a lot of sophisticated and state-of-the-art AI algorithms that using big data and trying to find the correct way to protect ourselves. So no doubt that everything needs to be protected, but first protect your most sensitive element, and then goes and grow from this direction to the other place.
Yeah, and I think this is, I agree with you, Dror, there. And I think it's a nice segue to highlight how can we do this to the audience. And this time I'll come to you, Joe, first. If you can give if you can highlight, Dror already started with this, but key areas of how people can secure their IoT deployments.
Well, I think it starts with figuring out what you have. So many enterprises that I work with don't actually know what's in their environment holistically. The problem with IoT devices is that they often get deployed by end users, by people within the business that are just trying to solve a problem that they have that no one has been able to solve for them before. And so you end up with these rogue devices that are plugged into Ethernet ports or connected to the Wi-Fi network. And so I think the first part in securing your IoT infrastructure is understanding what you have and what's there that you may not have actually intended to deploy. And so at Cisco, we have many tools to scan your network. All of our devices provide device posturing, so you understand what you have. Once you have that, like, I couldn't agree more with starting with your most secure areas and work out from there. And segment off the stuff that you just don't know and don't trust immediately. Get them onto a separate virtual LAN, get them into their own posture zone so they can't talk to anything else. And that might break some of your end user experience, some of the shadow IT that they've gone and deployed. But ultimately, you have to start from knowing what you have. And then I think from there, you can start to secure that with segmentation, micro segmentation, secure group tagging. And then as IT becomes a bigger part of this story, it helps the industrial IoT team and the OT teams and the real estate teams and the physical security teams deploy secure connections into the enterprise and secure sensors. And that is when you can move forward and deliver enterprise wide value. But for now, I think it really starts with knowing what you got.
Yeah, it makes sense. Knowing what you have in your network is key, and then securing the most critical areas. And Joe, you mentioned quite a few ways of doing it. Jimmy, what are the best practices for securing the IoT infrastructure from your side, please?
Well, I agree with everybody else. I mean, it's that zero trust and breaking things down and being able to look at the entirety. Yogesh mentioned DNA, the device, the network, and the application. We speak about that a lot. If you don't know your solution's DNA, you cannot secure it. The problem I think we're seeing is it's very difficult for enterprises to be able to take all that on. There's a lot of different expertise you need. So the expertise on the device is completely different to the expertise on the network and the application as well. So what we look to do is we look for a collaborative approach where we take the role as the expert on the network, but we work very closely with partners that we can find and we've used before. So when an enterprise tries to talk to us, we maybe introduce them to an application we've done with one of our partners. We've been very lucky actually, that in-house we have the skills to be able to build our own eSIM profile, so we can actually create applets that help the device and join together the device and the network more closely, so they're actually working in tandem. We see that once we do that on a technical level, we also try and expand on that and be collaborative in everything we do, because we think that the only way that the enterprise can get what they want is to look at the goal and get everybody on board trying to achieve that goal. We shouldn't be, and telco has always been guilty of this, we shouldn't be a solution looking for a problem. We should be an answer to the problem they actually have. So that collaborative way of working and that change of mindset and the flexibility that we've had with new technologies like the eSIM I mentioned, and the fact we own our own core and stuff like that allows us to do some things that are maybe a little bit more agile than larger companies could manage. We're trying to address that niche, and we think that that niche is going to be big enough because of the numbers that everybody's talking about. It's going to be more than big enough to support us as a company. So that's where we see it.
Great, thank you, Jimmy. And gentlemen, when we talk about IoT security and security, we're normally talking about the infrastructure element, but I think it does warrant to spend a little bit of time to cover the human element as well when we're talking about identity and the impact of connected services will have in privacy and identity. So I will come to you, Yogesh, and see what your perspective is there.
I think I agree that infrastructure is one of the main factors to be considered, but equally important is the human element as well. I think a system is probably as strong as its weakest link, and most probably the weakest link is assumed to be a human element, which is where we spend a lot of time as an organization in planning, training, and auditing to ensure that the operators and users comply to a certain level of security. And I think another important aspect that we consider is if the security is breached, then a planned response must be ready to isolate the affected devices, limit the damage, and alert the monitoring and detection so the systems can be secured as soon as possible. Let's assume that we live in a world which will have some or the other malware or insecurity aspect associated to it throughout our life. We've been using internet for the last so many decades, and we still have DDoS installed one place or the other. We still have these attacks happening. So we haven't taken over the cybersecurity space, and now we're entering into the IoT, which is giving you billions of devices further, which are exposed. So we believe that once it happens, the timed response to protect is an important factor to be considered too.
Indeed, it is. And Dror, can we protect sensitive data? Okay, we're talking about security and we're talking about IoT, and obviously, connected services, they're only going to become bigger and bigger, right? Everything will be connected, will continue to be connected, and tremendous amount of data will be generated. How do we protect and can we protect all this data?
So it's a similar question what Jimmy just answered. The first question about can it be secured at all, the IoT? I answered yes. I will continue is yes, definitely yes. I believe we can protect even sensitive data. There are several ways to do that. The first direction is doing encryption. This is something that it's a state of the art during the last years, and all the mathematics and computer science are building new algorithms. We are dealing with quantum algorithms that know how to encrypt, and it's very difficult to others to decrypt. It will be part of the authentication and ciphering. It's a 6G. It's already defined as quantum encryption, and this is a very elegant way to protect sensitive data. Second part, and this is something that FirstPoint really good at, it's a SIM card. In case that you have a protected SIM card, eSIM, vSIM, whatever it is, but the SIM card know how to hide the identity, know how to change or control the location, and based on that, keeping your data confidential, because sometimes you are going to countries that by the network they are attacking you. If you have a portable IoT device that goes to, I will not mention the name of the country, but everyone in the audience can imagine who I'm talking about, you are fully open for them. But if you know how to manage your SIM card and how to hide the ID, and you don't know what kind of device, what kind of IoT device you are, where are you locating, it can help you secure yourself. And the last, and it's very important, is personal rule per device for the data protection. As everyone know, firewalls are doing the job very well for big networks, or let's say for enterprises or a public area. We can build a personal rule per device or group of device. We know slicing at the 5G for the IoT, and it can be implemented by the correct management platform that you are building the security and the rules per group of devices. And by that, you can deal with different sensitive element, sensitive data, and controlling it. So if I'm summarized, we are talking about encryption, SIM cards, and rules per group or per device.
Great, thank you. And this is a really good summary as well. As our session is coming closer and closer to its end, it will be important, I don't want to omit to give you gentlemen the opportunity to give us your personal highlight or insight, rather, when it comes to securing IoT. And I will go in the reverse order from what I see on my screen. And first up is Yogesh. So if you can just give us your highlight here.
I think IoT security is a discussion that's ongoing. We need to understand that IoT security is not a one-time implementation or discussion. There'll be constant patches required, and this is something which we will continue throughout our lives. However, yes, IoT devices can be secure to a larger extent. But let's not forget that there is something also called a bug bounty, which is actually started by companies like Facebook, Google, Yahoo, and Amazon, wherein they're actually giving out money as a bounty to the young programmers who can find leakages in their network. And these companies have given out more than $10 million as of now as bug bounties. It's an interesting discussion to have in the next topics. However, yes, there are about 50 billion devices to be connected, more than 100 million hacks attempted every day. And as Console Connect, we believe that from a network aspect, we provide a software defined networking ecosystem, securing data, skipping the public internet. And we are happy to have further discussions with companies who want to secure the IoT in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Yogesh. I like that bug bounty. We've heard it many different ways, but that was a new one for me. Dror, your key insight for when it comes to securing IoT.
Everyone's visited the last Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, so that the market goes to two directions. One, it's a 5G, no doubt, but the second, it's a private core networks. Everyone, each enterprise will implement his own core network, and by that he can manage, control, and secure all of his devices. My point is that consider for your organization, maybe it's better that you will manage yourself, you will use the connectivity, whatever we discussed earlier, but the security keep on your hands. Even if you are not an expert in cybersecurity, but you are a smart IT guy, it's enough. And you can manage your own device by your rules, and this is the best way, not to be dependent on any other else.
Great, thank you, Dror. Thank you. And Joe, your key insight, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us at Cisco, we're here to help. Most people can't actually buy anything from Cisco. We have a team of cybersecurity experts and our sales and pre-sales team to help solve some of these really challenging IoT problems. Just know that it doesn't have to be overwhelming. And pick up the phone or send us an email, and we're happy to help get engaged and help you start on this journey. So thank you. And thanks
Fantastic.
For
Fantastic. And Jimmy, last but not least, your key insight for securing IoT.
I think what Joe said is great. I think pick your partners carefully. You need to have a set of partners who want to work with you, just as Joe explained there. Your connectivity partners, your device manufacturers, your application builders. If you can get everybody on the same page, everybody taking security seriously, and everybody working to a shared vision that you control, as Dror said, it's under your control in the end, then I think you have a successful IoT deployment, and I think you have end-to-end security. So I would echo that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Dror, Joe, Jimmy, and Yogesh, thank you so much for joining this panel on IoT security. I appreciate all your insights. So security by design, pick your partners carefully, secure your most critical things. And, when we're looking at security, we're looking at the DNA level, really. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.